When she raised her hand to throw the glass at me, my son jumped in front and shouted, "Stop hurting my dad!" She froze, everyone screamed, and I realized the marriage ended that second. My name is Michael Harris. I'm 39 years old, a high school history teacher in Columbus, Ohio. Most days of my life have been ordinary. I grade essays, coach the debate team, take my son Ethan to soccer practice. For years I thought ordinary was good, safe. But marriage has a way of making you redefine what safe really means. I married Vanessa 12 years ago. She was dazzling back then. Funny, unpredictable, the kind of woman who could walk into a room and make everyone laugh. I thought her fire would keep our marriage exciting. Instead, it kept burning holes through everything we built. At first, the cracks were small. A slammed door after an argument. A glass of wine too many at a party. A biting remark slipped into dinner conversation, just sharp enough to leave me staring at my plate. I told myself every couple fights, every couple has stress. But then Ethan was born. My son is 10 now, and he's my anchor. He's the reason I get up every morning, even when I've barely slept. The reason I keep trying to hold a family together that feels more like a battlefield than a home. Because Vanessa's fire didn't calm with time, it turned into rage. Arguments became daily. She picked at everything. The way I folded laundry, the way I drove, even the way Ethan laughed when he watched cartoons. When she was angry, she didn't just yell, she destroyed. Plates shattered. Picture frames cracked against the wall. I swept glass off the kitchen floor so many nights I could do it with my eyes closed. I started making excuses for her, to my colleagues. She's stressed, she's tired. To Ethan, Mom just needs space. To myself, she'll calm down if I stay quiet. But silence didn't save me. It only made the explosions worse. The worst part wasn't the bruises from objects she threw or the sting of her words. It was the constant dread, the way Ethan would freeze every time she raised her voice. My 10-year-old learning to tiptoe around his own mother like she was a landmine. That's when something shifted in me. Not anger, not even sadness. Just a quiet, heavy certainty. If I didn't find a way out, she was going to crush both of us. I began writing things down, a broken plate, a hole in the drywall, dates and times. I took photos of the mess before I cleaned it. I saved text messages where she threatened to make me regret breathing. At first it felt paranoid. Then it felt necessary, because I knew one day I'd need proof. And that day came faster than I expected. One night, Vanessa raised a glass high, her face twisted with rage. I was ready for the impact. But before she could throw it, Ethan leapt in front of me. His voice cracked through the chaos, louder than the shattering glass, louder than her screaming. "Stop hurting my dad!" She froze. I froze. For a second, the whole house seemed to stop breathing. And in that moment, I realized the marriage wasn't just broken, it was over. After that night, things didn't calm down. If anything, they got worse. Vanessa treated Ethan's outburst not as a wake-up call, but as an act of betrayal. The next morning, she cornered him at the breakfast table. "So, you're taking his side now?" she hissed, dropping a plate of toast in front of him so hard the crust bounced off. Ethan's shoulders hunched, his eyes fixed on the food, too afraid to answer. I stepped in. "He's a child, Vanessa. He doesn't need sides." She turned on me with a smile that looked more like bared teeth. Funny. That's not what it looked like when he screamed at me like I'm some monster. I wanted to shout that she was acting like one, but I bit it back. I'd learned the hard way. Raising my voice was like throwing gasoline on her fire. Instead, I kept recording. I had my phone on the counter, audio running. Her words spilled out sharp and venomous. And though it killed me to let them hang in the air without fighting back, I knew I needed every syllable. The violence shifted from physical to psychological. She mocked me in front of Ethan, called me Mr. Weak Spine, told him, "Don't grow up to be like your father or you'll get walked on by everyone." And Ethan, God, Ethan, he tried to defend me. "Dad's not weak," he'd whisper, but his voice was too soft, and Vanessa's laughter would drown him out. At school, his teachers noticed the change. One emailed me. "Ethan seems anxious, distracted. Is something going on at home?" I typed back a polite lie. "Just a rough patch. We're working through it." Then I sat there staring at the screen, fingers trembling, realizing that every lie I told was another way of keeping us trapped. The cracks widened further when Vanessa's parents came over one Sunday. They'd always been blind to her temper, dismissing her cruelty as passion. That night, though, even they couldn't ignore it. She exploded because I overcooked the roast. A plate smashed against the wall inches from her mother's head. Her father stood, his face red. "Vanessa!" "Enough!" She spun on him. "Oh, don't start. You never supported me, not once in my life. Don't you dare lecture me in my own home." Her mother burst into tears. Ethan clung to my arm. And me? I just sat there, heart pounding, phone recording in my pocket, cataloging every word, every scream. Because the truth was clear now. This wasn't just a marriage unraveling. It was a collapse, loud, violent, and unavoidable. The only question left was how much destruction would happen before it finally fell apart completely. It happened on a Thursday night. I remember because I'd just finished grading a stack of essays on the Civil War, and I thought the irony was brutal, reading about battles while living one inside my own kitchen. Vanessa had been drinking since late afternoon. I could tell the moment I walked in, the sharp smell of wine, the empty bottles by the sink. Ethan was on the couch, pretending to watch cartoons, his shoulders tense, his eyes darting toward me like he was begging me to tread carefully. Dinner was a disaster. Burned chicken, silence broken only by the clink of silverware. Then she started. "You think you're better than me because you're the one with the paycheck? Because you get to play the noble teacher while I'm stuck here?" "Vanessa," I said quietly, "you chose to leave your job." She slammed her fork down. "I sacrificed for this family and you dare act like I'm worthless?" Her voice rose and the insults poured out. Every failure she thought I had, every way she said I'd ruined her life. I kept my head down, breathing slow, willing myself to stay calm. Then she stood, wine glass in her hand. "You don't deserve to sit there eating food I cooked in a house I made into a home. You don't deserve anything." She raised the glass, arm trembling with fury. I knew what was coming. I braced for the impact. The shatter, the sting, the blood. But it never came, because Ethan, my 10-year-old boy, shot up from his chair and ran in front of me. His little arms spread wide, his voice raw with terror and rage all at once. "Stop hurting my dad!" The words sliced through the air sharper than any glass ever could. Vanessa froze. The glass wavered in her hand, her face drained of color. The room went silent. Silent in a way I'd never heard before, like even the house itself was holding its breath. Ethan's chest was heaving, his eyes wet, his voice cracking. "Please, Mom." "Stop! I can't take it anymore." Her hand shook. For one terrifying second, I thought she'd throw it anyway, but instead she lowered the glass slowly and set it down on the table with a soft clink. Then came the sound that broke me more than her screaming ever had. Ethan sobbing, his body shaking as he collapsed into my arms. And in that moment, I knew the marriage wasn't just broken. It was finished. Because when your own child has to shield you from his mother, there's nothing left to save. The silence didn't last. Ethan's sobs echoed through the house, and Vanessa, instead of softening, snapped. "Don't you dare act like the victim here, Michael. You're turning him against me." I was about to respond when there was a knock at the door. No, more than a knock. A pounding. "Columbus PD, open up!" Ethan's eyes went wide. I stood slowly, heart thudding. Vanessa hissed, "What did you do?" "I didn't call them," I said. But I knew who had. Mrs. Callahan, our neighbor. She'd heard shouting before. Hell, she'd even asked once if everything was all right. I'd lied to her. Tonight, she must have decided enough was enough. I opened the door to two officers standing grim-faced. One glanced past me and saw Ethan still clinging to my arm. The other scanned the room, the broken plates in the trash, the wine bottles, Vanessa standing rigid with fire in her eyes. "Sir, we got a report of a domestic disturbance." "Everything okay here?" Before I could answer, Vanessa stormed forward. "Of course it's not okay. He's poisoning our son against me, making me look like some kind of monster. He—" "Ma'am," the officer interrupted firmly, "I need you to take a step back." They separated us immediately. One officer took me and Ethan aside. The other kept Vanessa in the kitchen. "Mr. Harris, has there been physical violence tonight?" I hesitated, then remembered the phone in my pocket. "Not tonight. But I have proof." I showed him the recordings, the photos, the log I'd been keeping. His eyes hardened as he scrolled. Meanwhile, from the kitchen, Vanessa's voice rang out, high and sharp. "He's lying! I'm the one trapped here, do you understand? He's abusive. He controls me, twists everything." It was the same act she always pulled behind closed doors, but now it was unraveling under fluorescent police lights. Ethan wiped his face and whispered to the officer next to us. "She throws stuff." "She scares me," his little voice cracked. "She was going to hit Dad with a glass." The officer crouched down. "You did the right thing telling me, buddy." For the first time in years, I felt like maybe someone believed us. They didn't arrest Vanessa that night, but they filed a report. They gave me a card for a domestic violence unit, and they warned her, one more outburst, one more call, and she'd be leaving in handcuffs. When the officers left, Vanessa turned her fury on me. "You smug bastard. You think you've won because the cops took your side. This isn't over. You'll regret this." But as I tucked Ethan into bed later, his small hands gripping mine like he was afraid I'd disappear, I realized something. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about building a case strong enough that when the final battle came, she couldn't twist her way out. And after tonight, the cracks weren't just widening, they were starting to split the whole house in two. After the police left, the house felt like it had been hollowed out. Vanessa locked herself in the bedroom, slamming the door so hard a picture frame fell from the hallway wall. Ethan refused to sleep in his own room that night. He curled up next to me on the couch, clutching my arm like a lifeline. That was the night I decided I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was preparing. The officer's card burned a hole in my wallet. The domestic violence unit. For days I hesitated, dialing the number, then hanging up. What if they didn't believe me? What if they said it was just a marital dispute? But then Ethan flinched when Vanessa raised her voice over a TV commercial, and I knew I couldn't wait. When I finally called, the woman on the line listened. Really listened. She told me to keep logging everything, to save every message, every photo, every recording, to get corroboration if possible. "Judges need patterns, not just single moments," she said. So I built the pattern. Every insult logged, every shattered plate photographed, every text saved. I set up a small camera in the living room disguised as a clock, and the world around us started noticing too. Ethan's teacher called again. He told another student his mom was going to break Dad's face. He seemed scared all the time. Is he safe at home? My throat tightened, but I forced myself to say it. He's safe with me. Even Mrs. Callahan, our neighbor, stopped me one evening. "Michael, I heard what happened with the police. I want you to know you and Ethan have somewhere safe if you ever need to get out. My door's always open." It was the first time in years I didn't feel completely alone. But Vanessa wasn't blind. She noticed the shift, the way I stopped arguing, stopped reacting. She sensed I was building something behind the scenes, and it drove her insane. One night, she cornered me in the kitchen, eyes bloodshot, voice low and venomous. "You're planning something, aren't you? You think you can turn my son against me? You'll regret it, Michael. No judge will ever believe you. You're pathetic, I didn't answer. I just slipped my phone into my pocket and pressed record. Ethan came in halfway through her tirade. She turned on him instantly. And you? Stop looking at him like he's your hero. He's weak. He's nothing. Ethan's voice shook, but he said it anyway. He's my dad. And he's better than you. The silence that followed was deafening. Vanessa's face twisted with a rage I'd never seen before. She raised her hand, then froze, noticing the little clock camera blinking red. For once, she didn't throw anything. She stormed off instead, slamming the bedroom door so hard it rattled the windows. I exhaled, my hands shaking. I had her. Finally, I had her. But part of me knew this wasn't the end. This was the fuse burning down, and when it finally hit the dynamite, the explosion was going to tear the whole family apart. The courthouse smelled faintly of old wood and nerves. I sat at the petitioner's table, my lawyer beside me, a folder stuffed with months of evidence resting between us like a loaded gun. Across the aisle, Vanessa sat immaculate in a pale blue dress, her hair perfectly styled, her face painted with an expression of fragile innocence. She looked nothing like the woman who had thrown plates across our kitchen or screamed inches from our son's face. She looked like a victim. When the judge entered, everyone rose. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. Months of preparation, months of Ethan's nightmares, months of holding everything together, it all came down to this room. Her attorney started first, painting me as a controlling, manipulative husband who had turned Ethan against his mother. They played the concerned mother card so hard I almost laughed. Vanessa even dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, whispering, "All I ever wanted was my family." I clenched my fists under the table. My lawyer leaned close. "Let them bury themselves," she whispered. Then it was our turn. The first piece was the journal. Dates, times, verbatim quotes. The judge flipped through it, brow furrowed. The defense objected, but it was overruled. Then came the photos, the shattered glass on the kitchen floor, the bruises on my arm, the holes in the drywall. Vanessa shifted uncomfortably but didn't crack. Finally, the recordings. The courtroom filled with her voice. The insults, the threats, the venom. And then, Ethan's trembling words. He's my dad. And he's better than you. Vanessa's face drained of color. She slammed her hand on the table. That's taken out of context, she shouted, forgetting where she was. The judge's gavel banged sharply. Miss Rivera, one more outburst and I'll hold you in contempt. But the worst was yet to come. For her. My lawyer played the clip from the night she raised her hand at me, frozen in the frame by the blinking red light of the hidden camera. Ethan's small voice cracked through the speakers. Stop hurting my dad. The courtroom went silent. You could feel the oxygen leave the room. Vanessa covered her mouth with her hand, as though she could hide from her own actions. Her attorney looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. The judge leaned forward. I've seen enough. His voice was steady, grave. Custody of Ethan is awarded to his father, Mr. Walker. Supervised visitation for Miss Rivera, pending further review. The gavel struck. For a moment, I couldn't move. The weight of months lifted and crashed down all at once. Ethan was safe. I was free. But Vanessa, she wasn't finished. I could see it in her eyes as she glared across the aisle, venom and fury simmering behind her practiced tears. This wasn't over, not for her. Not? The judgment should have been the end. But in my family, endings don't come quietly. The very next morning, my phone buzzed nonstop. Vanessa's sister had posted a Facebook rant, painting me as a monster who stole a child from his mother. Within hours, half of Vanessa's relatives had piled on, demanding, I do the right thing and return Ethan. At the same time, my own relatives rallied behind me. My sister, who had been in the courtroom, posted the opposite, screenshots of the court order, snippets of evidence that had been entered. She captioned it, "Protecting a child isn't cruelty. It's love." And then the war exploded. My family group chat turned into a battlefield. Aunts yelling at uncles, cousins picking sides, old resentment spilled out. Who owed money? Who skipped funerals? Who'd betrayed who? Within hours, the custody fight had turned into a generational civil war. But the real shock came from Vanessa herself. She wasn't content to sulk in silence. She went live on Instagram, her eyes red, her voice trembling. She told thousands of strangers that she'd been robbed of her son, that I had fabricated everything, that the court had failed a mother's love. Her followers, people who had no clue who we were, flooded my inbox with threats. "You'll pay. Give him back. Rot in hell." I blocked, reported, ignored. But Vanessa didn't stop. She made TikToks with sad music, holding Ethan's baby photos like a grieving widow. She wrote long captions about surviving abuse and losing her reason to live. And people ate it up. The sympathy poured in, donations through GoFundMe campaigns, strangers promising to help her fight. She was turning her loss into a performance, weaponizing the internet as her stage. But what she didn't realize was this: Ethan wasn't a silent spectator. He was watching it all, quietly from the safety of my apartment. And the more he saw his mom spin lies for an audience, the more something inside him hardened. I didn't know it yet, but the final twist was coming from my son himself. 6 months later, I thought the storm had finally passed. Ethan and I had settled into a rhythm: school drop-offs, late-night homework sessions, Saturday baseball. For the first time in years, our lives felt normal, peaceful, but Vanessa hadn't stopped. Her survivor persona online had grown. She had 40,000 followers hanging on every post. She sold t-shirts with slogans about resilient mothers. She went live 3 times a week, crying on cue, telling anyone who would listen that she'd been victimized by a corrupt court and a cruel ex-husband. And for a while, people believed her, until one night when Ethan shattered the illusion. I hadn't known he was watching. He'd been scrolling through TikTok on the couch, earbuds in, when suddenly he ripped them out and said, "Dad, she's lying again." She's saying I begged to live with her. That I was brainwashed, I froze. My instinct was to protect him, shield him. "Ignore it, buddy. She's just..." But Ethan's jaw was set in a way I'd never seen before. "No, I'm not ignoring it anymore." The next day, he did something I'll never forget. Ethan borrowed my phone, set it up in the living room, and hit record. His small but steady voice filled the room. "My mom keeps saying she's the victim. But I was there. I saw her throw things. I saw her scream. I had to stop her from hurting my dad. She's lying to all of you. Please stop believing her." He uploaded it himself. Within hours, it went viral. The video was raw, unpolished, heartbreaking. The comments poured in. "Protect this boy at all costs. Children don't lie about things like this. This poor kid. Sending love." By morning, major TikTok pages had reposted it. News outlets picked it up. Suddenly, Vanessa wasn't the grieving mother anymore. She was the woman her own son had called out. Her followers turned. Donations dried up. The comments shifted from pity to disgust. Sponsors pulled away. Her entire platform collapsed overnight. And for the first time in years, Ethan smiled without hesitation. "Now they know the truth," he whispered. I hugged him so tight I thought my ribs would crack. That night, I realized something profound. I hadn't saved Ethan. He had saved himself. He had chosen truth over fear. As for Vanessa, she disappeared from social media within a week. No tearful goodbyes, no explanations, just silence. And in that silence, Ethan and I found something we thought we'd lost forever: peace.